It's all right.
God Almighty has promised believers that He would reward them. We have very good conception about Nabiyin and Shuhada. We find these are Surah, Siddiqin and Salihin.
Literally speaking, Siddiq means a true person. And this is, it has more intensive meaning of truth than the word Sadiq, which is just a simple statement that somebody is truthful. But Siddiq means one who is always truthful. There is constancy in his truth and a permanency. Plus, there is greater depth. You know, all these things are relative terms when spoken about human beings. The only true being is God. In the very depth, in the most refinest form and way, it is only Allah who is true. And when these terms apply to human beings, they have various shades. So among the human beings, the strongest possible definition of one's truth can be expressed by the word Siddiq in Arabic. This is why, although technically speaking, Prophet is a higher being in order than Siddiq, yet the word Siddiq is also used as applied to prophets. Kana Siddiqan Nabiyya. In the Holy Quran it is mentioned. So Siddiq here can be expressed as someone who is deeply true to the very inner soul of his being. And even the finest shades, he would not tell a lie or go against the truth. He is true also in the meaning that there is no inconsistency about him. Whatever is his apparent form, within he is exactly the same. So truthful both in words as well as in action. That is what Siddiq means. And Saleh is the first step towards righteousness. Anyone who begins to accept a right course and begins to act upon it, the goodness which he gains out of that course he pursues, that goodness in the first form, in the first phase, is called Salihiyat. He accepts this naturally and in good faith and with good intentions, and gradually he does not stay, in fact, on that status. Gradually he begins to travel towards Shahadat. Shaheed, you said you knew, but the fact is that few people know what Shaheed is. It is not the only person who is martyred in the way of Allah, but this word Shaheed is applicable more with greater intensity to those who are living. This is why the word Shaheed is also used in context with the prophets. Shaheedun alayhim. That is used by Hazrat Masih. Also, Hazrat sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the founder of Islam, is called that you will be Shaheed over all prophets. So, what does Shaheed mean? Shaheed, in fact, is somebody whose faith is so positive and certain as if he is seeing it. That is one meaning. And the meaning of Shaheed as applied to those who give up their lives in the way of Allah is also derived from the same meaning. Why are they called Shaheed? Because Shaheed literally means witness. So when they offer their life and they shed their blood in the path of Allah, what is there to witness about? I mean, apparently, superficially speaking, It has no relationship with witnessing. But if you revert to the first meaning which I described, then you will begin to understand the significance of the word shaheed as applied to those who shed their blood in the cause of Allah. Why do they give up their life, which is present? While the general trend of the people is that a bird in hand is better than two in the bushes. So, for the promises of future, they give up what is in their hand. That is to say that they see the future as certainly. They bear witness to the certainty of future after death so positively that the life here may be in doubt, but the life after is more certain to them. So when they are prepared to shed their life for the cause of religion, for the cause of God, they bear witness that we believe positively, truly and honestly in the life to come, and to sacrifice this life for the sake of that is no sacrifice. That is a barter, and we know this is a good bargain. So this is why they are called witnesses. The literal meaning of shaheed is witness. So those who witness Allah more closely, they become prophets. So prophets are also called shaheed in that sense, not in ordinary sense of shaheed. So this word acquires a greater sense and a loftier sense when applied to different stages of people. It can apply to a smaller man and to a man of higher order. So the range of shaheed is also extended up to the prophets. Yes, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Rashid, were you the first to have raised your hand, or were you the first to have raised your hand, or did he raise his hand? Okay, please. Yes.
It is a general practice that we MPs especially, we do istikhara when we have some big commitments in front of us, especially in the marriages, ceremony, for our children and others. And we really get
And for yourself as well, not only for children.
right answer to the thing. But sometimes it goes wrong, and unfortunately the marriage fails. Would you kindly explain the hikmah in this, please?
I don't know the instances you are quoting, you have in mind. Maybe the interpretation is wrong. Maybe it was a wishful interpretation, while the message was a warning and not a glad tiding. So it all depends. Moreover, I have noticed that there are two parties involved. In some cases, one party sees a good dream because for that party, that marriage is good. But it's not necessary that what is good for this party should also be good for the other one. Sometimes it so happens that one man's poison is another man's, what they call it? Meat. One man's meat is another man's poison, or the vice versa. So that is what happens. And I have noticed that in some proposed marriages, boy sees bad dreams and the girl sees good dreams. And there is no contradiction, because that means the girl is not good for the boy, but the boy is good for the girl, and it can happen. So one has to analyze all the dreams, and if one does not know the knowledge himself, he should go to some knowledgeable people, because the interpretation of a dream is a difficult thing, and everybody cannot rightly and truly interpret a dream. Sometimes the symbolic language is so delicate that it's difficult to receive the message. So I don't know what you have in mind. It's just a generalized statement, and I can't answer.
No, sir, it has happened so many ways.
No, but when you begin to quote in which particular instance, I mean, barring your own, of course.
It has happened to me, Master. It has happened to me.
That is what I wanted to conceal, which you have revealed yourself. But listen, I know, if you permit me, now you have brushed upon this, let me tell everybody else as well, that you are married in a very strong family.
That's right,
Yes, so if she comes to know what you are talking about, you will not be able to enter your house for the next few days. And if you do enter, then you will not be able to come out alive and go. So you better leave it at that. Anyone else, please? Yes. Well, sir. Christ, peace be upon him. When you mention Christ, because we believe in him to be a true and a great prophet, we must always say peace be upon him. Yes.
Christ, peace be upon him.
Yes, please.
That his followers, the five brothers, would be truthful in his day. And how come that they did, on the night of her arrest, they denounced him 3 times?
All of them?
Most of them.
No, that is wrong. You have not read your Bible correctly then. Just two are those. One of them denounced him there at that night, and the other one also ran away. So out of the 12 disciples, the 2 did so. Because they were untrue. Huh?
The rest of them were there. How come they were so family in love with their Lord?
Because their Lord taught them. I tell you, because they were truly in love with their Lord, and their law, what the Lord said to them, they acted upon it. And what was told them was this, that if somebody slaps you on the right cheek, you should offer your left one. And do not meet force with force. So that shows they are not trying to defend and rise in rebellion against the forces of that state. That tells us that they were true and honest. Otherwise they loved him, because it is shown from history of early Christianity that they were thrown before the wild beasts and torn to pieces. Yet they did not renounce Christianity. They were burnt alive. But so, those who were nearer, they were truer than those who came after. And I'm talking of after crucifixion, yes? I'm talking of after crucifixion. I'm telling you that the same people, the people who followed them were taught the way of life by those who were the disciples. Where did they learn this sacrifice and all this? From the disciples themselves. After the crucifixion, they spread out and spread the message all along, wherever they went, like the rashes. And they did not fear anybody. What is puzzling you is the fact that at the time when the government agents and the Jews came to arrest Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, or maybe later when they were trying to remove him to the place of crucifixion, why did these followers, if they truly loved him, not offer any resistance? That is perhaps the essence of your question. So I'm telling you, because they truly loved him. For that very reason they didn't offer resistance, because Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, had taught them not to resist force by force. So how could they be true to him and true lovers if they had defied him at that time of crisis? And this is why he himself did not offer any resistance.
So in that sense, why the change between Moses and Jesus? Because Jesus why the difference between Moses teaching and...
Between Moses, peace be upon him, and between Jesus, peace be upon him, right, yes. So, what do you want to know?
I mean, so Moses,
Allah had permitted him to defend himself with sword, the onslaught of the enemy by sword. So Allah sends 2 types of prophets. It always happens. Some, and mostly those who are lawbringers, they are permitted by Allah to fend themselves against coercion by using the same weapons as are used against them. And this is perfectly justified. Yet despite being weak and humble as compared to the enemies, they become victorious and the powerful enemies are laid low. So that is also a sign of Allah. So then Allah sent, some people begin to say that it was the sword which won and not the message. This was the allegation raised against Hazrat Moses, who was also, peace be upon him, a law-bringer prophet, and against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who was also a law-bringer prophet. And they are very similar, as it is said in the Bible, that I will raise from among your brothers a prophet like unto thee. So we find so many things of similarity between Moses, peace be upon him, and Hazrat Muhammad, peace be upon him. So he also was attempted to be suppressed by sword. And after a while, when Allah permitted him to defend himself with the same weapons, even at that time he was not powerful. This is what is misunderstood by some people, that he was waiting for himself to become powerful. It is positively proved that when he was permitted to defend himself, he was still very weak, and yet he became victorious against heavy odds. So that is one type of prophets. The other type is when the people begin to say that all right, this was the sword which won, like many early Christian scholars. They have changed their trend now, but previously they used to attack Islam and say it was the religion of the sword. And unfortunately, this is now being held by people like Mr. Khomeini, Imam Khomeini and so on. But as we read the Holy Quran and as we know the Islamic history, we know this is totally false. But anyway, people begin to say that that particular religion, be it Islam or Judaism, spread with the help of sword and not with the strength of the message. So in the last phase, on the same religions, appear prophets like Jesus, peace be upon him. And this is Messiahhood as distinct from the ordinary phenomena of prophethood. The Messiah offers his body, his property, his life, his honor to those who want to take and usurp these things by force. And the Messiah is not permitted to raise his hand against the offending or striking hand. Yet the result is not only the same, but in some ways it is more dramatic. Their victory appears impossible if you feed the facts to the computer. Yet they become victorious in a larger manner, and they become to stay longer in victory and in ultimate success. So this is, as we believe, is exactly what is going to happen in the second advent of Messiah. We believe as Ahmadis. This is exactly happening now. We are passing through the same phase. We are being treated exactly as the early Christians were being treated. The founder of the Ahmadiyya community is rejected for exactly the same reason as the early Christ, peace be upon him, was rejected. He came of a humble origin. He was born under a great foreign empire, like the founder of the Ahmadiyya community. And he was looked down upon by his very own people, the Jews. The same thing happened to the founder of the Ahmadiyya community. And he also told that do not strike back when you are stricken. This time, it is the message alone which is going to win. And it is love which is going to win over hatred. So we are following his advice exactly in the same manner. And the result is that within the last 90 or some years, the one man who was alone and he was being mocked at has become 10 million. Despite that, the fact that the opposition is so severe sometimes that the governments take part in, as it is happening in Pakistan, the governments take part in the suppression, and openly and nakedly and shamelessly. And the whole machinery of the government is set against them. and they are permitted to be murdered, and nobody listens to their wails and cries, and when they go to the courts, justice is not met. Despite everything, they continue to spread. This is exactly what happened in the early part of Christianity. So as we see, these are the true signs. The rest are just stories. The true sign is the continuous living sacrifice of a people for the cause of a noble cause. No better sign of truth can be offered to any people than this practical sacrifice for a long period. Now just a minute, you asked one question, and this is time now for the prayer. So first you should have asked the permission for the second question.
Can I ask a similar question?
If you ask, you can ask, but maybe I do not answer. If the answer has to take longer time, then I'll postpone it till tomorrow. If it is a short answer, then I'll answer you now and here. Right? Now you can ask the question.
Last week I was down at Hyde Park Corner, Swedish Corner, and I happened to defend Hazrat Islam. And there was another African person there who was before me protecting the same cause to one of the Christians.
Good.
Right? And they are people in the body and a gun in the body.
Yes.
So after we had a discussion with this third person, so we had a discussion ourselves. So people, I guess the real thing that happened, they don't always.
You see the letter from him, yes.
So in that letter they say that those three Ahmadis believe that all those people who recite Kalama Shahada and believe in 5 pillars of Islam are Muslims or not.
Yes, so what did you answer?
Well, I answered they are Muslim.
Yes, that is correct. Nowhere in Ahmadiyya literature you will find it mentioned that those who claim to be Muslims and say Kalama Shahadat, they are not Muslims or non-Muslims. They are called rare Ahmadis. So this is a fine distinction. Non-Muslims are described as non-Muslims, and non-Ahmadi Muslims are described as non-Ahmadi Muslims. And in so many places in Ahmadiyya literature you will find the reference of rare Ahmadi Musalman. So if we did not accept them to be Muslims, how could we write about them as rare Ahmadi Musalman? Muslim and the Musalman is the one and the same thing.
Exactly the same answer I gave to the person.
But,
in the letter he writes that would you get this under letter signed, right?
just a minute, I say this is written by Hazrat Masih Maud al-Islam himself. Why does he want a authority lower than Masih Maud al-Islam? When the founder of the Ahmadiyya community has used the same terminology, rare Ahmadi Musalman, why should I certify? This is insulting. If a greater Imam common to him and me has written this, that should suffice him. Fine? Yes, you write to him this answer, that the Hazrat Masih Maud al-Salam has repeatedly used this, and all the Ahmadiyya literature is abounding in this terminology. We make a distinction between Ahmadis and non-Ahmadis. But we never call non-Ahmadi Muslims as not Muslims. Rare Muslim is a term applied only to those who profess to be non-Muslims. Rare Ahmadi Muslims is the term applied to those who profess to be Muslims yet deny Hazrat Masih Maud al-Salam. But what is confusing in his mind is something quite different. That is the term kafir and mu'min. We don't believe them to be mu'mins. We believe them to be kafirs within the four walls of Islam. Why? Because we believe we do not attribute to them anything against their profession. We attribute something to them which they themselves take pride in. they deny the Masih Maud al-Salam, the founder of the Ahmadiyya community. And they take pride in this fact, that they refuse to accept him as a true messenger or a person sent in any capacity from Allah. So when we say you are kafir, we say them kafir of Hazrat Masih Maud al-Salam. And that is to say, just a minute, hold with patience. When we say kafir of Hazrat Masih Maud al-Salam, this is understood that if you deny Hazrat Masih Maud al-Salam, in true essence, you are not Mu'min. Because all the people you believe in have been left in the past. The only trial which came your way in your lifetime, you failed in that trial. So that is a term, kafir versus Mu'min. This is a different terminology altogether. And there is a term Muslim versus non-Muslims. Because they claim to be Muslims, we never call them non-Muslims. But when they call us non-Muslims, this is against our profession. They have no right. When we call them kafirs, we call them kafirs of Hazrat Masih Maud al-Salam. And they accept it. So we never attribute anything against their claims. While when they call us non-Muslims, they call us the people who do not believe in Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is totally false, entirely wrong. So our position is justifiable and their position is not justifiable. Now if you want to ask a third question, perhaps